Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the 5th episode of Champions Corner. We already had the traditional Alernakin intro, and that my stream didn't work, but now it works, apparently. If it doesn't, then let me know, but we've had a great start already, before it even started.
Are you muted, Bill? That is the traditional question.
I don't know, are the gamers in the chat able to hear me? It seems like they are, at least according to my OBS, so we've improved.
Okay.
We've gone one step, one step forward, but also one step backwards. So we'll see how this works. I can also hear my cat in the background, so this is gonna be great. Okay, so today, first I have to switch the scene. Does this work? Oh, I'm so good. Okay, so today we have someone else instead of Reptil. Reptil could not make it. I think he's on a trip to Spain or something like that. So we've got SM Fusion, a console god, an Xbox console god actually, just to even make this even more specific. So Fusion, hello, and could you introduce yourself?
I am SM Fusion. I've been playing the game since roughly closed beta on the console platform, Xbox in particular. I started playing Xbox competitively around Season 3, I believe, and then I later transitioned to PC around January or February of 2018, and then started playing in tournaments later on, and roughly ditched console ever since then, and occasionally come back.
Oh yeah, you still play on console, right? Every now and then with tournaments or something like that?
Yes, I will maybe stream on console about like once or twice a week. I try to keep it to a minimum, but whenever a tournament does arise, particularly 2s and 4s, I will play. I will not participate in a 1s tournament on console.
Okay. So we have a smiling bastard and a winky face bastard. So we've got and someone who eats microphones. So we've got a good squad here today. So let's go to is this gonna work? Oh god, I'm so good. News. Okay, so Ubisoft announced the private test, or did they do it last time? I think they already did it last time, but now they started sending out invites for the Breach test, which is going to have, well, Breach, the new mode, and 2 new characters, right? The Shaolin and Tiandi. Obviously, this is going to be private, so it's going to be NDA, so we will not be able to talk about it in detail, like next podcast or anything like that. But from what I know, they did send invites to a lot of people, and it's only PC, by the way. But they did send invites to a lot of people, so this is going to be a pretty big part, I hope, of the development of the mode and the characters. Miasker?
And on top of Breach and Tiandi and Shaolin, it'll also have the Warden and Valkyrie works. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, so there's even more. And then in news also not related to tournaments, before I go into the tournaments, I launched an educational series, which if you type in, actually I'm gonna do it because I'm a good host, !guide in the chat, you will find a playlist. So far it's got like an episode and a half, really. 1 episode of actual content and 1 episode of an introduction. But so far the insane streamer. So far the reception has been positive mostly, and we'll hope, I hope at least, that it's gonna be still like that in the future. Delay is cheating. And so yeah, the reception was positive, and if any of you who are watching right now haven't watched it, go ahead and give it a watch and tell me what you think of it, because that's what matters to me the most. Like, not the likes or whatever, because that's nice, but what matters most to me is the comments. So if you could give me some feedback, that'd be great. And now the tournaments. There's the usual tournaments of console, Foreign Arena. Actually, let me go to console Discord just to make sure I'm not lying to any of you here. There's the Foreign Arena, which has a weekly 2v2 on Saturday and 1v1 on Sunday. ESL has also, this is all PS4, has 1v1s on Saturday and 2v2s on Sunday. PC has the cat is not giving me any space to talk here, but it's okay. We will persevere. This is the usual Alernakin stream. For PC there was the ESL 1v1 as per usual on Monday. I think there was one. There was one, and there were 2 4v4 tournaments and a 2v2 tournament. And with Xbox, there's every Monday there's an ESL 1v1 tournament, and there was a Valhalla Warriors 2v2, which we can do a winners interview with Fusion here, who won the tournament. It was a 2v2 tournament on Xbox, so with I think £100 prize pool. So if you could talk to us about that, Fusion.
All right, so this particular 2v2 tournament was, I think, smaller than the last Xbox 2v2 that occurred. I think 32 teams registered and I think 20 checked in. In particular, there was a bit more of a meta in this 2v2 tournament, because recently on Xbox there really hasn't been any people actually taking like comps seriously. Whereas, like, the last time there was, I think, 2 actual competitively viable comps in top 4, which was Alernakin, which ran Kensei Nobu, and Mamba and I, which ran Kensei and Conk. Whereas this time, I think I saw Kensei and Conqueror in the majority of the tournament. Like, top 4 alone had Kensei and Conk, and then I want to say even beyond that, Kensei and Conk was a very popular comp. Kensei Nobushi placed 2nd, and overall, I mean, it's not that the tournament, this particular tournament, was any more like skillful than the rest of like 2v2s on Xbox, but it certainly seemed like it was more developed than a lot of the other 2s tournaments that I've partaken in on console. Whereas, like, you know, some months back, Mamba and I won a 2v2 where Aramusha was in grand finals, you know. So
Yeah.
it seems like they're learning in some areas, and that's of course good. I'm not sure exactly where the sudden need to pick viable comps came from, but it certainly did make the tournament more competitive than other 2s tournaments in the past have been.
Okay. Well, do you think that maybe, since you're already here, do you think that maybe it's because, like, we have, like, you, Fusion, you, Mamba, me and Devour, and I'm sure a few others, and on PS4, of course, Scoreboard, Dread Rave, that we have moved there and showed kind of how to, this sounds very patronizing, I guess, but do you think that could be a part of it? Like, especially in the 2v2, like, in the last 2v2 tournament, as you said, there were 2 teams that played actual compositions, and that was my team and your team. But the next tournament, you say there's like there was many more. Do you think that could be a part of it, or is it just a coincidence? Or
potentially, I mean, like, when you look at the viability of, I mean, you guys mentioned it a couple podcasts ago, where, you know, a lot of the console mindset in some of these picks is like, okay, AOE fast attacks. So like Kensei Nobu is the first pick, you know, like that is like the bread and butter of like the ideal console 2v2 composition. But I was surprised with how many Conks we saw, because Conk, he definitely has his uses in console 2s, but the thing is that, like, you can't really reactively all block anything. And you also, I mean, of course, like, the read game is still there, but, like, also it's a lot more difficult to parry on top of that. And then you just have something where you can run like a Kensei Nobu and, like, you can just throw attacks, you know? So, like, potentially there was a bit of influence there, but, like, I was just rather baffled with how often Conk was considered this tournament. And it worked. I mean, Kensei Conk won Mamba and I, but, like, it was still rather surprising, because I do think that Conk, in 2s in particular, is a lot more of a viable hero just on PC due to your ability to actually play defensively. Whereas playing defensively on console is a very difficult endeavor, even for people who've played it for a long time.
Yeah, your comment about Aramusha reminds me of my and Devour's first Xbox tournament that we played together. It was a 2v2. And in the semifinals, we played. That tournament was like the epitome of console experience, at least on Xbox. Where in semis, we played against Highlander and Valk. And in finals, we played against Orochi and Nobushi from Brazil. And our only way to play against them was to just make sure we have 2 steady guard heroes, so we at least have a 33% chance of blocking attacks, and then just hope that we can spam attacks a little bit better than them in the finals. And in the semis, it was literally just like a Highlander and Valk, if I remember correctly. But it's nice to know that there is at least something going on there. Yeah, but
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think a lot of comp ideas on like console nowadays are also coming from like all the 2v2 tournaments Mistressed hosts, because those get a lot of views. I believe like Clutch or Mistress channel had like 350 views last time, and every single team was streaming too. Same with 4v4. Like, people are starting to watch it a lot more, and there's more consistent tournaments. People get to see the top compositions used, so I think that's pretty big influence also.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, Fusion, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, and like there definitely is one thing about Xbox 2v2 tournaments is that like the viewership is significantly lower than both PC and PS4, because every twos tournament we get, there's never a dedicated streamer for anything past the semis. So there's of course the individual players who will stream, but a lot of them don't have a large following. And then, for example, for on our console, they have no one on Xbox to represent them via stream, like how Lightboogie does on PS4. So I don't think there's an outlet for a lot of Xbox players to see their own platform in play, so they often don't see what places high. Of course, they can watch PC or PS4, but I think that might be a part of it, is like, okay, you're in a Discord about an Xbox tournament, you can't really see what's going on unless an individual player links their stream. I definitely think that plays a part into why Xbox is also behind, at least in 2v2.
Okay. Alright, so is there anything else in news that we have to mention? I don't think I'm sure there's something small, but there was that Valhalla Warriors tournament, which I think was SM Lex and Raptor, right? They got second place, right, Fusion?
Yes.
And they played Kansai Nobushi, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so the comps are definitely a lot more similar to PC. Seemed like, okay, so that's the news. Now, if I don't fuck this up, I might fuck this up. Give me a second. News, okay, we don't need that. And now, there we go, Mistressed Mayhem. Okay, so that's Mistressed Mayhem happened. There isn't much for us to talk about, because I think I was the only one who played this, who played in the tournament this time, and from the people here. And it was, I know, it was kind of a work tournament. I really do not like 2v2. But just to kind of report on it, it was won by Legion and Frozen Flame, I think is his name. He changes the name every night, but I think his name is Frozen Flame now. Second place was Setmix and I. And the third place was Ghost, Overdose, and White Wolf. And I'm not sure who got fourth and later, but those was the top three. And when it comes to the comps, it was, the first place was Kong Kansai, the second place was Nobushi Kansai, and third place was Nobushi Kansai. So it's the usual pick any, create a composition out of the 4 viable, or in this case 3 viable characters, but Zerg is also pretty viable, and just play that into V2 and just kind of see what happens. I really don't like V2. I think it's not, there's not that much variation. There's variation within the 4 characters that are viable, but there's not anything more than that, I don't think. And I think the gameplay is very boring as well. Even during the stream, during my stream of the tournament, I was asking the viewers what do they like about 2v2, because I genuinely just didn't get it, and I don't think I got a single answer. I think maybe it was you, Fusion, or someone else competitive playing, who said that they just like watching high level players, and I think that's about the only answer I got. So I genuinely don't really get it, why 2v2 is that popular, but I think it might be because in terms of viewer base, but I think it's because simply there's a stream for it, and there's not really a stream for for tournament, except Clutches, mine, Scores, Weeaboo's stream, but there's no no spectator, of course, because there's no spectator mode, so that may be a big part of it. But yeah, that was the Mistressed Mayhem. Not much I think to talk about here, unless you guys have anything to add. But for me, it was just an additional 2v2 tournament. Another 2v2 tournament. And actually, I want to mention 2 things. First of all, the prize pool was pretty big. I think it was 350, I think. And
yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah,
I think it was 300. Yeah, ended up being 370 or something.
Yeah, maybe like that.
Yeah.
And Yaskar?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I kind of share your sentiments on 2v2. I was supposed to play with you that tournament, of course,
Yeah.
but I was just a bit late, so you went with set mates, and I really didn't care that much. Like,
Yeah, like
I cared for like 5-10 minutes, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I won't play Miss Boring Two's tournament.
yeah. Just to let you guys know, I think in the not in the last one, but in the previous 4v4 tournament, the competitive For Honor one that we will still be talking about, of course, later. In the finals, there were 7 characters, 7 different characters, because there was Nobushi, Kensei, Kong, Lawbringer, Shaman, Zerker, and Highlander, maybe. I know there was 7 characters. So for 8 possible choices, not choices, but for 8 possible players, there were 7 characters, and I'm talking about 2 different series, like but like let's say like a best of 9 between the 2 teams. That it was UDA, like my team, the one I'm in, and Devoured's team. We played in winners finals, and then we played in grand finals, and in both of those series there were 7 characters combined chosen on both sides, combined. In the 4v4, in the 2v2, there were like 3 characters, and there's really not much variety, and it's for me it's also very boring gameplay on top of that. But okay, so that's the 2v2, and I think this is a monthly or so tournament. I'm not exactly sure how Mistressed, if there's a schedule to it, but just to end this, I wanted to say again thank you to Mistress for hosting another well-run tournament. I think it was like a 4 or 5 hour tournament. I think it was closer to 5.5 maybe, but that's still within like the expectations. So it was a very well done tournament again from the organization side. It's just that 2v2 is kind of boring for us, but that's about it. Okay, now let's go to overlay 2. Mistress Mayhem. I'm showing the wrong thing. Give me a second. This is very difficult. Okay, the 4v4 tournaments. So there were 2 4v4 tournaments in the past 2 weeks. There was the competitive For Honor tournament, which was the first one they've done, I think. It was their first tournament, and there was like yesterday, I think there was an Ender Games tournament. So the competitive For Honor tournament, I think, had close to 20 teams or so. It had a very large amount of teams. Bodro, do you remember how many exactly? Just because I'm asking you, just because I know you've made.
And there's like 18 teams.
Yeah, like 18 or so teams. So it was like, I think, the highest number, or like very close to the highest number that we've had in the 4v4 tournament. The next one was because of some issues with the Discord itself and some other issues like that. We didn't have as many teams. We had, I think yesterday was like 10 or 8 or something like that. Very low amount of teams, but that's not because like people don't like 4v4 tournaments, or I hope at least. It's because there was an issue with the Ender's Discord server. So once that's fixed, then or it's already fixed, then hopefully the next tournament that they do is going to have a higher amount of signups. So Fusion, I know you played in the competitive For Honor tournament, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No, well, we played temporarily for we played one game in winners finals, winners bracket, and then we played one game in losers bracket, and then we had some hiccups during I think it was the 3rd round.
Okay.
Due to a disconnect problem.
Okay, so
it was more so than a disconnect.
Okay, so you can talk to us about like your team in general, if you could, and okay. Since I know you play with also someone from console as well on top of 2 other PC players. So how is that working out, and just generally about your team and your tournaments?
Well, we've had some struggles making it to tournaments in particular. Is that Sloppy and Mamba's schedules are very, very, very tight when it comes to the timing of majority of the tournaments. So it's basically a gamble as to whether or not we can play. Lennon and I are normally able to make it. But Sloppy has work, and then Mamba also has work. Mamba can normally make it on time. Or
stupid normal people, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So Sloppy barely made it in the competitive For Honor tournament. He showed up as brackets were seeding, and then later down the line, Mamba's ISP shut off his internet due to him moving. So Devoured's team gave us 40 minutes to try to get the issue fixed, and thank you for that, Devoured. but we were not able to resolve the issue. So we went down to the loser's bracket, and then Mamba was able to resolve the issue on really poor timing. And for the most part, I think we've only ever been able to play in two, really. That one and the first tournament we played in, which was the tournament where UB servers went down, if you guys recall.
Oh, is that
That
that's some nice tournaments you guys played in.
Yeah, we have not had the best time when it comes to tournaments. There was there was another one that it wasn't exactly our team. It was Kihu, Zach, Lennon, and Mamba, and me as a quote sub, because Sloppy could not make it, and that was a disaster.
Okay, so talk to us about the composition that you guys run. Is it like the usual one, or is it there's something?
Yeah, it's Highlander, Kensei, Shaman, Berserker is our normal standard setup.
Okay.
Lennon on Berserker, me on Kensei, Sloppy on Highlander, Mamba on Shaman. We have a little bit of variety in the sense that Mamba will sometimes switch off Shaman to play his Nobushi, which definitely needs some working on.
It's fine.
But Lennon can rotate between Shaman and Zerker pretty well. He was for a time playing Kensei when I was playing pre-nerf PK. We can occasionally put my PK in there, but a little, but it doesn't really happen all that often anymore. And then Sloppy has been recently trying to train up a Conqueror to put into our rotation. But for the most part, we do run the same setup, but we have been seeing that Highlander, although it works a lot, against certain teams and compositions, it can be a hindrance, whereas against others, it's very, very, very helpful.
Okay. So yeah, that's that team. Do you guys have like I genuinely don't know. This is actually just me being curious. Do you have like a team name, or are you just one of those most teams that just change team every?
Yeah, we change every single time.
Okay.
Our recent name was Dinner for Breakfast because Leonard and I's sleep schedules are very questionable at times.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm just wondering because every time there's a tournament, I always we're not playing, like we're waiting for an opponent or something. I always stream I'm streaming someone else's stream, and so I've been trying to on top of having like for example saying like Laweeaboo stream or something like that in the corner, I also wanted to have like a quote unquote overlay where it would say like what team is playing against what team and also what the score is, and it's so difficult because everyone changes teams and none of the teams are serious in terms of the names. It's so difficult to have that, but yeah, that was just a tangent. Okay, so score and budgets, you guys are on the same team. How were the two tournaments for you? And just kind of talk about the tournaments and about maybe some changes in your team that you might be doing or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So the competitive For Honor tournament. Once again, we didn't do that well placement wise, although in winners bracket we came extremely close to beating you guys. It was last map double breaking, and I mean,
yeah,
if everything went normal as it should, we probably should have won that map, but there were a few unfortunate occurrences that tipped it to your guys' favor, so it happens. It's For Honor, but
yeah, it was very close. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had good performance in winners bracket, very nearly won that, but then went to losers and didn't do so hot there. But and then the Ender tournament yesterday, we did okay. We got second. We didn't drop a map to any team but yours, but we couldn't really get anything on you guys that tournament. And we've been talking about needs to change composition wise, but something we noticed is when we're deciding what to do at the start of a game, like where we send people at the beginning, we noticed fighting your team, we have a lot more restrictions. Like, for example, if we're fighting a team that has, say, Shaman, Kensei, Nobushi, Konk, they might send, like, the Shaman and Nobushi off to a point and Kensei and Konk in mid. And what we could do then against that setup is we can send one person to each of the side points, and we send two mid. And then once we find out where they send to, I can rotate from mid. I can leave Brave alone in mid because he's just fighting Kensei in mid. They can't gank him. So I can leave him 1v2 there, and then I can rotate, go help out the guy in the 1v2 on the side point. And our Ever guy off alone caps the Ever side point. So we get a nice point lead starting out, and nobody's really in a disadvantaged position. But then we fight your team, and you have a Shaman off on a side point, and you have Lawbringer in mid, and now we have an issue because we can't do that because I can't leave Brave in mid. If I leave him, you guys will Lawbringer gank him. So that restriction, we noticed it's the importance of having 2 gankers on a team. I think if you need like an ultra viable team comp, something to win tournaments with, I think you need 2 gankers. You know, that would be of course one of them is Shaman, but then the other one you need like a Lawbringer, a Zerker, hell even a Raider. Just one of those. I don't think you can really do much with only one. It's too restrictive. So yeah, we'll be making changes in the future for that. And yeah, pretty much it.
Okay. By the way, guys, I'm sorry, my cat decided to have a bit of a seizure in the background, but he should be okay now. And of course not a seizure. He was just fucking mad at something. Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I do agree that like us when we started playing like when we started switching to like a Zerker composition, we started thinking of it this way, where like having 2 gankers on top of having like a Zerker. Although we will probably we did this last tournament, we played I think most of it or even all of it, I'm not exactly sure, with Shaman, because Shaman is just so much better than like everyone else.
Yeah, you didn't have Zerker at all this.
Yeah, the previous tournament we did, and we were planning on doing the same thing. Like we in the competitive Front tournament, what we did is we played 1 game each. We would play Zerker until we lose with Zerker, and then we would switch to an actual composition. But we just wanted to have practice with that composition because Zerker composition is so much more difficult than a Shaman one, because it's just so much easier to stall against Zerker, so much more difficult to enable well, you have to enable a Zerker, kind of like a Highlander in a way. You have to enable a Zerker in a team fight to be able to, for him to do something, because otherwise people are just gonna dodge away from him. It's not be able to do that much. So we wanted to get some practice in the competitive Front tournament, and for some reason we didn't necessarily do it this tournament. I'm not exactly sure why, but that's kind of how we started thinking about, well, having like 2 gankers, and then pretty much everyone, it's kind of like a season, like a 3-4 kind of logic, where there was PK, there was Raider, there was Lawbringer, and then like a Nobushi, and then everyone could gank with everyone, kind of thing. So it's kind of coming back to that logic slightly, not exactly.
Yeah, we had like back in 4v4 Hero Series, we had Glad and Raider. We also had 2 gankers, and you guys had Lawbringer and Raider.
Yeah, so it's kind of going back to that logic, not quite as much, where with our team, at least back then, well, our team, like I was a sub of course, but the logic was that, well, everyone can gank with everyone. Like Nobushi PK could gank super well because of the fucking PK not having damage reduction on the guard break, and any other setup could gank very well. And as I said, it's kind of going back to that, except not as hard, because like I cannot, if we have a PK or a Kensei on our team, which is what we do, I cannot gank with that one, right? So if he's struggling in a 1v1 or something, I can't help him. I cannot go to him and do anything. But I can help anyone else. I can help the Lawbringer, I can help the Shaman, and we can go around the map, either me with the Shaman or the Kensei or the PK with the Shaman, just kind of clearing up the map. And then you have to be able to contest mid, you have to put in a lot more resources than you would usually against other teams. Because if you just send one person, you're just gonna die. We have a combo that deals 127 damage of a counter-guard break. So you don't really want to send just one person alone. And then if you send 2 people, well, now we're in a 2v2, and we probably have mid, and we may even have feats for the, at least smoke, maybe Fiat. So, well, now we're not still in a good spot because we can still 2v2 and I'm still on the Bushi, right? And Lawbringer still has a lot of health, even though he can't that much else. So, yeah, it feels very comfortable playing with that composition. And playing with Zerker, I think, is more fun for me personally, just because there's a lot more to do. Like, in every team fight, I'm looking for ways to enable a Zerk. I'm looking for something to help him in a fight so he can deal damage and, you know, those kinds of things. But with Shaman, it's just so much easier. So we'll probably keep running a Shaman and trying Zerker on the side, and at least I hope we will keep trying Zerker because it's so much more fun. Yeah, Budget, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say just like the tournament results. Yeah, the last tournament, the competitive 4 honor, we placed pretty poorly. But we were doing really good in the winners. Like I said, like Score was saying, how we almost beat you guys, but we just couldn't get that win at the end on Century Bridge. So I think it tilted us a lot, like especially Rave. So we played pretty poorly in the losers bracket because we kind of lost the motivation to try, because after such a devastating loss that we thought we should have won, but it happens. And then this tournament, like Score said, we played second. It was close games, but we still couldn't take it, and we was trying to think about different compositions to try out, so we'll probably be streaming with those in the future. Is it?
Yeah, okay. So from me, of course, like as I said already, just a bit ago, we were trying in the first tournament, in the competitive front tournament, we were doing like one game of Zerker at least, and then if you lose, then we switch to a real composition. I hope we keep doing that, just because, as I said, it's so much more fun. And plus, you know, hopefully if Shaman gets nerfed in the future, then that would be a nice way to go about that as well. But holy shit, the pounds of the Shaman it's so much easier to play with that. I don't know if you guys like. I know if you tried playing without the Shaman ever. I'm sure you know how much. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm sure you realize just how much like easier it is with a Shaman compared to anything else. But like if you have like I don't know, maybe even like a Raider or something instead of a Shaman, it's so much more difficult, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say we tried a Raider comp one time. It was me on Raider, I think Raven, Highlander, Score, and Nobu, and then Kensei, Weebs on Kensei, of course. It was tough, like ganking someone that had a lot of run speed, like especially like Shaman. Like we were trying to like hit stun for a Raider charge, but it was like impossible because she just keeps running around in a circle.
There were interesting scrims. Like every time I was trying to gank with Bodrat's Raider, I was just thinking in my head, why is this not a Shaman?
Yeah, why is this actually difficult? Why is there someone running away and I cannot do much? What is going on here? Yeah.
My team in particular, we once tried not running Shaman to have a Nobu and keep the Zerk, and it was definitely difficult because, as you said, catching opponents who are running away is very difficult, especially with a Zerk on your team. And then, of course, Zerk ganks, like, they're good for not feeding Venge, but they're also not nearly as quick as a Shaman gank. So we also
one
really...
fuck up, like, fucks up, and then you dig a revenge.
Yeah, we can't really confirm anything off hit stun unless we're using the Highlander, so that was also very questionable when playing with the Zerk. With the lack of a Shaman.
Yeah. One thing I would like to see someone try is have like this probably wouldn't work, but just like you said, like the highest tournament level. But I think you remember, like we had like one game where we were just trying out and this was like I think random scrims where we had like 4 characters that could kind of gank, and I don't remember if we had Shaman or not, but it was just like random scrims where 4 characters that could kind of gank. So any situation they could kind of gank, but it's still not anywhere as close as like Shaman level. But on the other hand, you would have every duo on the team would be able to gank somewhat at least. And I would like to see that in action, just like in scrims, maybe not in tournaments, because of course that's a big experiment. But something like, I don't know, like Highlander, Zerker, Nobushi to have like, or Kensei to have some team fights, and plus, Nobushi can finish people off as well. And then someone like Kong or someone like that. To be able to still gank with feeds, especially with Kong, and I would like to see stuff like that. Although, like, as I said, we probably wouldn't be the strongest, but just like something else where you try and play around not having a shaman and seeing how that works out. But it's so much easier to just have a shaman. You probably would never even try that. Yeah, but
it is definitely fun. Like when you don't play like shaman, and sometimes in scrims, like it is hard because back then when there was no shaman, like it felt like we were killing people faster. But now there's shaman. It's like how do you? There's no stalling anymore. Like there's no such thing as stalling.
Yeah.
And I think that's like an important tool to have in Force. That's why I think like shaman needs to be nerfed sooner than later.
They do.
Yeah, definitely playing with a shaman is sometimes reinvigorating. It reminds me a bit of prior to PK rework, where some of the scrims that went down were not having a PK, and like those were actually a bit enjoyable, not playing with a PK prior to a rework, and that's how I feel sometimes with the lack of a shaman.
Yeah, like I personally, as I said, I personally prefer much more to play with a Zerker, just because there's so much more to do, and like in every fight you have to be looking out for the Zerker, like making sure he can actually do something and things like that. Whereas with shaman, you just like press Psy Wonder, press a heavy at the guy, and he's dead. It's like, okay, well then, I mean, good fight. You're outplayed. Just kind of sucks, but right now she's pretty much necessary. I think that if there is a team comp that it can be played without the shaman, it's probably our team comp with the Zerker and Lawbringer. So we still have two good gankers and we have better team fights and things like that. But this also just doesn't have a shaman, so you can stall a lot better against it than against like a shaman. But okay, and also one thing about not having a shaman and having a Zerg is that your 2v2s are a lot better. Like if you have Kensei Zerg, it's so much better than like Kensei Shaman or PK Shaman, of course. But again, you cannot finish people as easily as with Shaman. Okay, so if there's anything else you guys want to add about the tournament, the two tournaments. Oh, actually, I want to mention that in the competitive front tournament, I think that was the return, let's say, of the Russians, because they hadn't been playing in tournaments much, but then they played in that one, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
They got. I'm not sure who they lost to in the winner bracket, but
sure.
we did get to fight them in the losers bracket.
Yeah, I'm not sure who they lost to, but they did do like pretty well as they usually do. I think they got like top 5 or something. I can't remember. But I hope they keep playing in the tournaments, because they didn't play in this tournament, the very previous one, the one that happened yesterday. But I mean, hopefully they end up still playing the game and still playing the tournaments, because they're first of all, they're very entertaining. Like Skeptic is so much fun, but on top of that, just having an additional EU team as well, so that we can actually practice, and having like a very dedicated team is very nice in the scene. Okay, so I think about the tournament, that's about it. About the tournaments, that's about it. And I think that's also about it when it comes to this part of the podcast. So this was the first part, and now we'll be going to a break. And after the break, we'll be going over transitioning between console and PC. Sorry. So that's both from PC to console and from console to PC. And we'll be talking about new player experience. So I will be going into the game as well on stream, and I will be showing you guys some of the videos, some of the things that trigger some of the things that are not very good in the game in terms of new player experience. So we'll be showing that, and then there will be the time for the Q&A. And remember that if you want to have your question answered, if you have a question, then add Alernakin in the chat, and I'll be able to answer your question. We will be able to answer your question at the end. But that's about it for the first part, and yeah, okay, so that's about it for the first part, and we'll be going to a break. So see you guys in a bit. And we're back. Hello. Is this gonna work? This should work. Okay. Okay, so now after the break, we can go back to the discussion, and we will be talking about. Is this correct? Okay. So we'll be talking about the transition between platforms. So we'll be talking both about the transitioning, as I said before the break, transitioning from PC to console, and then back to from console to PC. So Fusion, since you were the one who did like the biggest change, I guess, since you were already competitive on Xbox and then switched to PC. How was that? And then afterwards, how was changing back from PC to Xbox?
Okay. Well, in particular, the most difficult part about transitioning to PC is the lack of knowledge that comes with, like, if you were not actively paying close attention to PC tournaments as an Xbox player, the perception of the skill cap between both platforms, or the skill disparity rather, is very, very, very vague. Like, you have almost no idea that PC often plays at a higher level. I mean, Xbox in particular, I mean, majority of the tournaments that occurred were ones tournaments, and like, we all know that ones as of late are not really a competitively viable mode. So like, I mean, that just goes to show that often the perception of like what is deemed competitive on console is, or at least on Xbox, is not exactly in tune with what is deemed competitive on PC. So, I mean, often the perception of PC players is, oh, they play at a higher frame rate, so therefore they must be crutched or something along those lines. That's often what you see out of a lot of console players, but in reality, it's not true. PC often has access to more resources. The community is a lot more free-flowing, so like information gets shared quicker, whereas I know Xbox competitively, they were finding things out very late. Like, you weren't even seeing target swaps in competitive until months down the line after it was commonplace. So often how we did things on Xbox was like, oh, okay, you perform well in the 1v1 tournament, you are deemed competitive now. And then 2s and 4s never really took off. 4s still are basically dead on Xbox. 2s are more popular than both modes now. 1v1 tournaments have sort of phased out in registration, but 4s still don't exist. And then 2s are probably the most popular mode by far. But like, even among like the 2s player base, it's still not even on the level of even what I've seen PS4. Due to just how far behind Xbox is with like information and with actual like a competitive community.
Okay, so then what was your, is that, so you said that for console players a lot of the time it was like, or it is, that they think that the only difference is that PC players play on a higher frame rate and that there's actually no other difference. Were you like this might sound stupid, but like, were you one of those like as you were on Xbox?
Yes, for a time I was like that.
Okay.
I didn't understand the difference until you and Devoured came to Xbox 2v2 and won, and then I was seeing things that I'd never seen on console before. Bear in mind, I was new to 2v2 at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was Mamba and I's literal first time playing together ever.
Okay.
We ran Nobushi PK. This is during the height of Nobushi PK, mind you. And I think we were probably the only other people who were running that.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, this is our first introduction to 2s. Like, we knew how strong of a comp it was. Whereas people were running, like, just whatever they felt like playing. The thing is, like, we were so far behind, and like, we thought it's whatever, they're coming to our territory, we by default have this. But that wasn't the case by any means. You guys took the tournament, and I think we got like one game off of you guys due to, I don't know, Devoured not taking guard breaks or something.
Yeah, it sounds possible. Yeah.
So yeah, for the most part, I know Mamba is a bit different in the sense that he watched a lot of competitive PC prior to switching, but I watched a lot of ones before I like took a hiatus from the game around the 1v1 Hero series.
Mm-hmm.
But like, when I came back and started playing competitively on Xbox, I really paid no attention to the PC scene.
Okay.
Until I actually had the epiphany that, like, it was like on a different plane of performance.
Okay, so now going back to console, because as we said at the beginning, like, you play on Xbox tournaments still, and in some of them I play with you in 4v4. Some of them I play against you on 2v2. So we already talked about this a little bit, but how's now going back to Xbox from already playing for what was it, like 4 months on PC already?
Yeah, going back to Xbox is difficult. I have a very, very, very time actively wanting to do it, even like when it's free money in some cases. Like, I try to limit my return to Xbox to like less than 3 times a week. Like, if you want me to scrim on console, I will come, but like I won't be there long, and I will not do it consecutively.
I see.
So the thing is just like, it makes my play on PC worse too, because like if I actually like start trying to parry on console, it will completely mess up my timing on PC. I do not parry when I go to console. I will not do it. I will only block. And I know Mamba observed the same thing, where it's just like, if you really start trying to parry things on a consistent basis on console, when you go back to PC, your timing is going to be ridiculously early. Because like you're not really reacting to anything on console. So like, I'll switch back to console, and I'm like, all right, I'll just block and only block, and that's a part of the reason why I won't participate in ones on console. Is like I'm completely content with external blocking in 2s and 4s, and like maybe parrying when I see something that's an parry, or making like the hardest read of all time.
Yeah, and that's what I do in 2v2 and 4v4 as well. Like on PC I already don't parry that much, just because blocking is so much safer. In big team fights and even in 2v2s, like, of course, if there's a parry that I know I will get, of course I parry then. But other than that, I don't really do it. But that's what I noticed on Xbox, where I can just kind of spam attacks, and there's not much. No one's really gonna stop me from that. And then as long as I think I actually showed this in the first episode of my series, where we just won fights by being able to block some attacks in an Xbox tournament finals. We just won the tournament by being able to block some attacks in a fight, by like not being, even though we weren't able to react to the attacks because we were playing as hotspot Wi-Fi warriors from Brazil, but still, and I'm sure of course it was very, very bad for them as well, our attacks at this, but we just felt like it. At least if you think differently, then say so, but like it felt like we just won just because we spammed attacks just as them, but we also could block some attacks, and that was like such a basic thing to win a tournament off of, but that's how it felt like on Xbox.
I mean, yeah, yesterday in the 2v2 tournament, I can maybe say I parried 10 attacks the whole tournament.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Like, and maybe 3 of them were 500 MS, maybe 3. Like, the rest of them were like, oh, I can say let out the second part of his zone, okay, I'll parry it, things like that. But like, I know for a fact that like if I play console consecutively, like say I play it for 2 weeks straight, I don't want to do that, but like if I do it, I can parry on console. But as I already mentioned, the disadvantage that will occur if you go back to PC, and that's definitely like one of the things, is that like console players, they love to parry when they go to PC. They you can often see that in like
Mamba
console players that that guy. They love to parry.
Mamba parries everything on with zone. Like you throw like an indicator across the screen, he's like, yo, I'm parrying that. Yeah. It's not even locked onto him. He loves it, dude.
Yeah, dude. He sees a plunge attack indicator, and he's like, dude, I'm gonna parry that one.
He sees a guy like across the map clearing minions, and he just sees an indicator on his screen, and he just zone parries.
Yeah, he tries to parry the out of block attacks. Clip doesn't send this to Mamba, just so he knows what we...
Oh, he's watching.
That's good.
Yeah, that's one thing. Is like they love to parry, and I mean like, I love to parry when I was on console. But like the thing is that the offense on console is so one-dimensional that like parrying is actually kind of safe. At like at least when speaking in terms of Xbox, but like there was a time when like before I switched to PC when like I parried majority of the indicators that were thrown at me, because barely anyone has the sense to actually play a complex offense. Like you often see those people like on Reddit, and there's like, oh, why am I getting parried all the time? That's what it feels like majority of the people you are fighting against on console are. It's like they don't understand how to attack properly. Like it's almost just out of the question for them. They're just like, oh, I'm just going to press buttons and then get parried and do nothing about it. And like only a very, very, very small percentage of players actually feel like there's like any form of counterplay to what you're doing. Like, so it's just like you can just constantly like mully people on console. Like it's really bad.
Yeah. Okay, so that was it from Fusion, but now Bojad and Scar. Bojad, you switched from Xbox to PC, right? Very early on. And like what was it, like 3-4 months after release, something like that? And then you and then you every now and then play PS4 again, right? In tournaments and something like that. So how was that for you?
So like I started off on Xbox. You just got it as a present. I didn't really know much about gaming, so I was currently injured that time, and I just went on For Honor. Just got it as game, started playing, and I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to get better, but there weren't enough resources to help me get better at like a competitive level. Like I was pretty good for like a matchmaking person, but that was about it. So I started going on Reddit, asking people a lot of questions, and I used to watch a lot of the top PC players like Kihu, Score, Aller, like all those top players back then, like when there was 1v1 or 2v2 tournaments. And I learned a lot from just watching them, and I learned a lot of unlocking from Aller, actually. It was funny because when I discovered unlocking on Nobushi, I started doing it in like 1v1 matchmaking, and there's a lot of hate.
Yeah, it's fun.
From people.
It's so fun.
It is fun because like Xbox or console people in general, they get really salty if you like quote unquote cheese them. So it was pretty funny. And I started going on Reddit asking for like scrim partners because I didn't know anyone on Xbox, and no one really played games. I didn't have many friends that actually gamed. It's funny because I have a screenshot here. I didn't even know what CC was, so every time I would be like talking to someone, they're like, yo, CC him. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I didn't want to sound retarded, so I went on Reddit. I posted this. I'm like, yo, what is CC, guys? Then I deleted it after.
What is CC? Thank you. By deleted in For Honor. I just wanted to show this to everyone. Just to make sure, just to zoom in real quick on this.
I wouldn't recommend you clicking my name and going through my posts back then because they were pretty embarrassing. Cause
thank you.
I'd be asking a lot of stupid questions. Like I did not know anything about gaming because I have been gamed for about 10 years, and For Honor was my first game in 10 years. So it was an extreme, but the resources did not help in game. So I had to use an outlet like Reddit and just watching Twitch streams and competitive scrims just to learn and get better.
Bodrat, would you like to give us the context behind your AGC past?
Oh shit! They found out. Okay, so when I was in Xbox, I wanted to get better, and I believe I don't remember his name. I was approached by someone in AGC, and I was asked if I wanted to join, and I'm like, oh fuck it, I'll join a clan. Like I want to get better, and hopefully like they'll help me improve and shit. And then Fusion, do you have the screenshot where I asked?
I do.
Can you show post it in Aller's Discord so you can show it?
Yeah, go for it, dude.
So I joined AGC, now called SM, Straight Minded.
that's the name. Straight Minded.
And I joined them for about a weekish, and I used to do like I was told their GBs are called game battles with them here and there.
What?
And it was fun. Yeah, like if you wanted to scrim, you had to say like GBs. Like, yo, do you guys want a GB? Right, Fusion? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, it was a platform that's been on console, like not even just For Honor, like it's been on console for a very long time, you know, with like Call of Duty and fighting games and things like that called game battles.
GB's tonight, but red.
Yeah.
So I would join 2v2 scrims with them here and there, and like, and then I just quit. I'm like, because I don't know, I didn't really enjoy the community as much. Yeah, that was my AGC road. 1 week.
Okay, that's
Fusion, did you even know me? Like when I joined, or
I was not in at the time.
Oh, you weren't even in there. Oh, easy. I was in the clan before Fusion was in it.
Congrats, dude. Okay, well then that's Budred. Well, actually, like, so when you once you switch, because you said you had no scrims and things like that, right? So once you switched to PC, that's when you started having those scrims, right? And being able to
Yeah,
practice
so
with people?
like I guess having the name Bod Rat helped because there was Rusty Rat. So
Yeah.
I always used to lurk. I was always in For Glory, like always. I used to lurk to just read people's comments but never talk. But when I switched to PC, like Rusty linked his Discord in For Glory, and I'm like, okay, I just randomly clicked it, but I didn't know they would notice me in the Discord because I was ready to lurk in that Discord also. So I just joined. I wasn't gonna say anything, and then Rusty pinged me, and he's like, "Yo, Bodra, who are you?" And I believe I said admire or something pretty corny, and they're like, "Yo, you wanna like, what was it? Do you wanna match make?" I'm like, "Sure." So they randomly just invited me. It's me, Vinx, Score, and Rusty, just chilling. And,
Nice.
yeah.
And then you played in the 1v1 Hero series, right? The qualifiers.
Yeah, I gotta go to the washroom.
No, I see. Yeah, I'm sure there's still somewhere the vault of militias against
Yeah, I didn't play. I played it in one of the weeks.
Yeah.
I don't remember much.
I remember.
I was lagging.
I remember. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, that was my road to PC. And PC players are were a lot easier to talk to just because they were all on Discord and it's easier to communicate with them in the game also. And I don't know, they were just really nice and welcoming. So that's how I got into PC.
Okay. So, Scar, for you, like, we've already talked about this, but just to kind of complete the set of the answers, because you started out on PC, obviously, and you just played some PS4 every now and then on in the tournaments, right? I don't know if you guys are still playing or not, but or maybe there just hasn't been tournaments. But so, how was it for you to switch and just kind of then going back to PC as well? Was there any issues? I mean, obviously there were issues, but like, how was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, we do still play in console tournaments very rarely, like maybe one every couple months or so, just because it's really not enjoyable to play on console. So yeah. What Fusion said about pairing and everything, yeah, I kind of mirror that sentiment where it's like the timing is completely different because of that input delay on console. Like when you have to parry is different. So if I attempt to parry on console, what usually ends up happening is I'll block the attack and then I'll throw out a heavy after.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Because my parry was input that late, so then it's like I usually don't bother because I'm too used to PC timing.
So what was that the first thing you noticed about coming from PC to console, or was there something else that you noticed before that?
The first thing I noticed was that my eyes were a bit sore, like they kind of hurt a bit.
I see.
From the low FP. Well, actually, no, I take that back. First thing I noticed was that the main menu lag. That's the very first thing I noticed. And then a few minutes later, I noticed my eyes hurt. So, yeah, correction there.
Yeah, sorry, before you... I remember during the first Hero series, where there were also console players there, so there was Rave as well. I had some 1v1s with... my vote. Okay, I had some 1v1s with Rave just because there weren't that many console players there, so I was also kind of chilling. So I just kind of play with him and see how it is. And then the first thing I noticed, and I think the first thing all of us noticed on like all the PC players there noticed who saw the PS4 or something, was that it's not like I thought that they would at least try and make it at least somewhat smooth, but no, it's just so bad. And that was the first thing we noticed. Like, we all were surprised by how bad console was in terms of like even the looks themselves. Because the gameplay actually wasn't as bad back then, especially since I was playing Nobushi, obviously with Alnox against like Warlord, where against Warlord not much changed because you would just dodge headbutt on prediction anyway, at least in my case. So not that much changed in that very like gameplay wise, but like even appearance was so worse, so much worse, so bad. But yeah, please continue.
Yeah, it's just, it's just my experience with it, where like it coming from PC, it's really, really, really hard for me to want to play console or to, get better at it or anything, just because like I know what the game can be, what the game can look like and feel like it, and it's tough to play a worse version of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I myself
I
have.
didn't know. Oh, go ahead.
I myself, like you would think that like someone who came from console, like like it would be bearable to go back, but like I played it for so long, and then like I instantly hopped on playing at 144 hertz, and like the input delay, I never really realized how important it was until you guys pointed it out. But another thing is the FOV.
Oh yeah,
like,
the FOV.
Yesterday, two times during the tournament, I was guard broken from someone behind me who I couldn't see, and like I'm just like, why is this a thing? Like I don't understand it. Like you just combine all of that, the frame rate, the input delay, and the FOV together, and like it just really creates for an unsettling experience that like you don't actively want to improve in, nor do you actively want to play. Even in my case, even for money, I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I'm showing the clip of us in the finals fusion where it was just me like whiffing the guard breaks, just because like okay, so on console, just to preface this a little bit, on console, at least for me, and that's how it feels like EUNA at least, and that's how it always has felt like on Xbox for me. You either block a light attack or you get guard broken. You can only look out for one of those. So if you're looking for a light attack, you will get guard broken. If you're looking for a counter guard break, you will get light attacked. There is no way, at least for me, to be able to discern the two, be able to be able to actually do something about the guard break or the light attack if I'm looking for the other. And so here, FOV just happens to lie to both me and Mamba as well. Here, at the very beginning of the clip. And then I come to guard break just because I there's no way I can react to his guard break hitting me, so I'm reacting to him starting up a guard break, and so even though I target switch, I still do a guard break at someone else who's like on the other side of the fucking map. It's so bad, and then I eat like 30 damage or something. This is like the epitome of console. This is what console is like. Actually, there's a few more clips of what console is like, but yeah, like as you talk, Fusion, if you still have something, or Score, if you still have something to say, I can dig up a couple of clips of some real good Xbox gameplay, and yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Fusion also mentioned how offense is usually a lot simpler in console, and that's like is one of my main barriers towards not being able to enjoy consoles. What I really like about the game on PC is that all of your actions you really have to put thought behind. If you if you do something at a poor time, you will get punished for it. So it adds huge layer of depth there on PC that just isn't really present on console. On console, you don't really have to choose your offense too wisely. You can just do it, and of course, there will be some thought behind it to counter what your opponent is doing and all that. But it's like it's not even close to how much thought you have to put in on PC. So when I'm playing on console, I end up just getting bored because I'm not having to think as much, and it's not as fun for me then.
Yeah, like for me personally, there is no thought for me. Like at least on Xbox, again, maybe it's different on PS4, but on Xbox there is no thought put into any of the actions in 2v2 and 4v4. The biggest action that I had to put thought into in 2v2 on Xbox was when we played against Mamba and Fusion, and Devour and I, especially Devour, just because he's not here, I can say this, because otherwise he would be able to actually say something back. But this is how this works. He was just like spamming attacks into full blockers, because you're spamming attacks as Xbox, you can just spam attacks and you're gonna be fine. But that was like the only thing, like try not to hit the full block, and that's literally the only thought going through your mind, and there's nothing else. Everything is just let's press a button, and I know the button's going to deal damage because it's Xbox. Like there's no skill offensively, at least in 2v2, in 4v4, especially 4v4 on Xbox. It's just like as long as you know the very basics of the game, like external guarding, things like that, you will be able to do very well at like the highest level of Xbox.
Right. And that's what I think people don't understand. Like people who only play console, and assume that PC will be easier because you have an easier time reacting to everything. Well, it's the complete opposite. PC is harder because you have to put so much more thought into what you do because your opponent can react what you do if you do something bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, for the longest time, during like the reign of PK, pre-rework, I mean, like, PK was winning all of the console 1v1s for the most part. Aside, let's not talk about the disaster called the Xbox Hero Series, but PK was winning.
Oh yeah, where's the clip? Where's the clip? Oh god.
Oh no.
Oh, I have to find that one.
PK was winning all of like the Xbox 1v1s, but like I feel like she wasn't winning it for the right reasons. Like she was winning it because people just got light attacked, not because like the concept of a defensive PK was a real thing. Like I don't think defensive PK really became like an actual like meta on Xbox competitive until like Mamba actually started playing a defensive PK. Then other PKs were like, huh, wow, only parrying is actually kind of good with PK on console. And considering how many light attacks people throw, it's like, okay, 49 damage, 49 damage, 49 damage, 49 damage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it like when I was watching, I just wanted to show Quilt clip just to make sure that the Quilt clip is shown on stream. But as I was playing as I was watching Xbox, and I think it was PS4, both Xbox and PS4, I'm not exactly sure how it was, tournaments, the mixers, if I remember correctly. I don't know, Fusion, if you played in them, or if I'm sure you know about them. I don't know if you played in them.
Yes.
So I know, I think, I don't want to name names because I'm probably going to be wrong about the names anyway. So I saw like the Xbox tournaments, the mixers, and that was like the height of Nobushi in 2v2, right? And on PC, like every team had a Nobushi. It's gotten to the point where everyone just stopped playing 2v2 because I think it was like June last year, something like that. So at that point, everyone had already stopped playing 2v2 on PC because it was so bad, and it's still pretty trash. And so I was wondering like what the the Xbox meta is going to be, or PS4 on in 2v2, and there was none. Like half the teams had Valk. One team had a Nobushi, and the Nobushi was just kind of like not even spamming attacks. They was just kind of sitting there, and like on Xbox you can just kind of spam attack that, and like, she was just sitting there and doing nothing. And so a Nobushi team, I think it was like Nobushi Warlord, something like that, was losing to Valks like every game. And again, I'm not going to name names because first of all I don't remember, second of all I would probably be wrong anyway, but it felt like the 2v2 meta, and it's the same with 4v4 or still 2v2, like was like 6 months behind. And that was a tournament played for a lot of money. Like in small tournaments, if there was no competition, that's understandable, like no one really cares, right? But that was like a $1,000 tournament where there was no skill involved. People were actually just spamming attacks with whatever character they ended up playing, and they didn't even like play the correct characters for that playstyle. But yeah, sorry, it was just kind of a little bit of a rant about that. So okay, so Fusion, you have something to say still?
Yeah, like meta on Xbox, like it, as I said before, is that like 1v1s was like Xbox's thing, and like strangely enough, like for a platform that was so 1v1 intensive, I'm so surprised that like how did an Orochi win the Hero Series? Like that does not compute. Especially like keep in mind that was during the height of unlocks, and like console players did unlock, mind you. Like it was a very real thing. But like a Centurion placed wait, no, I don't even think I don't remember. It was a Conk that placed second. And Orochi placed first.
Yeah, and I remember like the best, I don't remember the names of the players. Again, I don't want to. I'm talking about someone else, I think. Like I remember like I was like the Nobushi, right? That I was like a Nobushi on PC, right? So I wanted to like help someone on console because someone was like getting fucked by the enemies. I'm not exactly sure what was happening, and so I noticed that that person was a Nobushi, so I like DM'd him, give him some help or something. And then the next tournament, Nobushi loses to a Warden. And that was like the highest placing Nobushi like on PS4 or Xbox, I'm not exactly sure. So like even in that like that big of a matchup difference, and with probably unlocks and things like that, it was still just so bad. But yeah, so that's console for you. Like even 1v1, like even 1v1, which is like the main mode that you'd think, right? As Fusion said, it was still on such a lower level. Like I think the finals on both PS4 and Xbox were like Warlord against Orochi, I think, right?
Xbox had, I think, like I recall the second place player. He switched between like Centurion and Conqueror. He might have played PK or something, but I think he played PK and lost to Centurion, like against like the third place here. I don't.
No, I'm saying in the finals, like in the Hero Series finals, like on LAN.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I think
that was Orochi versus Berserker, I think.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, something like that. So like even then, like the character choices that don't really make sense. Okay, so I think we've ranted enough about console. Now, do I have this or do I not? If not, then actually let me just make sure this works. So now we'll be going to new player experience, and this is done live. Let's hope this works. Kind of worked out. This is okay. So new player experience. And so before we go in like to the game and then I show you guys some of the videos and I rant for a little bit, or not really rant, when I to talk about it. But first of all, like I would like to hear from you guys, how was it starting the game for you back whenever you started, and what kind of kept you going, and what were some of the issues, if you had any, like if you were thinking about the game that way, if there were any issues like as a new player you faced at the launch of the game, which is where I think most of us started playing. So Scar, if you could start.
Yeah, so coming in, I came from Dark Souls. I played Dark Souls 2 and 3 PvP. I was pretty good at them. And so a lot of that community, was looking at For Honor because they're somewhat similar games. You have third-person perspective, you're fighting with medieval weapons and so on, fighting game elements in both of them. And so it's kind of came over, tried out the beta and really, really liked it. I remember like the first day that I played the beta, it was like just 12 hours straight of playing. I loved it so much. So yeah, started playing a lot, trying to get better, coming from being one of the best in Dark Souls 2 and 3 PvP. I wanted to do the same thing here, so that was my goal, to be one of the best here. So I play a lot, always try to improve in everything. And coming from that hardcore mindset, competitive mindset, the new player experience for me was pretty smooth. I pretty quickly rose to the top. By end of March, I was one of the best. And yeah, but I don't know. It was super smooth for me, but I think I'm very much an exception in that case. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, so right, so let's actually just go through the people first, and then I guess I'll be my turn. So Fusion, for you, how was it?
The new player experience for me was, I can't really recall prior to the launch of the game, but when the launch of the game came out, I pretty much watched a lot of streamers. Like, my particular favorite was when Scott streamed, because I was at that point in Orochi main, and I never really had issues getting to like the top of the skill cap in terms of Xbox with Orochi, because I felt like I was genuinely the only person who was playing optimally at the time. Like, it was like, okay, I have top light and zone, I can storm rush, guard break, any like bash thrown at me, all right, let's go. So the reason why I was able to, get to where I was at the time on Xbox competitively was simply because I had watched a lot of streamers. Now, like, as I said before, I only watched like ones tournaments at the time, so like I wasn't really informed about like the 2 scene, or the 4 scene. But like at that time, I was an exclusive 1v1er, and I never really felt like I needed an access to a lot of information because I played such a basic one-dimensional character where all I had to do was top light, zone, and then camp storm rush as hard as humanly possible.
Okay, so Budget?
Yeah. So I kind of explained how I came on to the competitive scene or how my experience was, but yeah, I started off on Xbox and like I didn't. I'm that kind of gamer that I always want to play with someone. I don't like single player games. Like I always want someone there to be with me. And if it wasn't for PC and meeting all the players on the PC, I probably would have quit For Honor because I did not enjoy Xbox at all because no one would want to talk, and I'm a pretty chatty individual. So I always want like that's why I didn't like ones at all because I wouldn't be talking to anyone. So I started playing a lot of fours with some random Xbox people, but I didn't really enjoy playing with them. But I still like to have them just talking to them. So once I came to PC, it was pretty smooth. After like a couple weeks, like I was already trying to scrim like top players, and they were really helpful. So it was pretty smooth for me once I was on PC. But I had a struggle on Xbox because I just didn't like the whole experience at all, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, I think coming in with the same level of experience and everything that I had at the beginning, you know, being a competitive player in a different game, wanting to get to that level in this game. If I think I came to this game with that mindset now at this moment, it would be a lot harder for me just because I came in at the start. I kind of grew with everyone, you know. I quickly got to the top, and then I was growing as everybody else was growing, so there was not much catching up to do. Whereas, you know, if I came in now, there would be a lot of catching up to do, a lot of learning. And it's the problem that every fighting game has. You know, if you're trying to get into a fighting game that has been out for a while, it's really difficult.
Okay, Fusion?
Yeah, I mean, like, now this is, you know, related to the transition of console to PC, but, like, I definitely felt that, like, when I first came to PC, I knew for a fact that, like, I was really far behind. I think the first actual player I fought, like, and you know, this was still like in my 1v1 mentality. I started dabbling in fours on console right before I switched to PC, but like the first actual player I fought was like Zach before he quit the game, and like I got absolutely ransacked. I was like, huh, I am not as good as I thought I was. So that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to try to get better, and that's when I started partaking in scrims once I actually got a proper teammate. And I think our first scrim was either against Score and Kihu, or it was the one with you and Zach Allern. That was like our first scrim on PC, and ever since then, you know, I've been trying to improve my play and, as I say, shake the console.
Okay, yeah. So for me personally as well, like I think for all of us except I guess Budget, who didn't like Xbox as much, but like I think for all of us it was very good starting out. But like for me personally, I started off playing the game in the open beta. I played only in Ibushi there as well. I think only in Ibushi. So this has been a thing for a while. Then I just kept playing the game. I really liked the game in the open beta, and so there were not that many issues for me when it came to not having any way to get better from within the game, like any resources, or even on Reddit or even on YouTube or anything like that, because that was back when there were no real resources even on YouTube or on Reddit. So there wasn't much of an issue, just because sorry for the microphone, just because, as Skor said, I was kind of like getting better as everyone else was getting better as well. And so even, for example, if it was difficult to notice even like matchmaking being bad back then, because everyone was bad. So like even if you're playing someone who was like much higher MMR than you or something like that back then, there wasn't that much of a difference, just because that person was also bad at the game. Like but now if you get someone who actually knows what they're doing, well, then you can tell that they know what they're doing. And if you're a newer player, like before the show we were just kind of talking about what we're going to be mentioning and during the show, and I think Skor, you said that you still get put against like Rip Zeros and Rip Ones all the time in matchmaking, right?
Oh yeah, phenomenal matchmaking in this game, by the way, and top quality.
Yeah, so there's that, and so even if that was like the case still back then, like at launch, first of all, there was obviously a lot more people, so having like being placed against like I'm Rip 2 and I'm playing against rep 10, well, that's not as big of an issue as I'm rep 2, I'm playing as rep 200. That's a slightly different issue here, but that wasn't as much of an issue back then, and so I never noticed it as well. I was just kind of playing matchmaking, playing mostly 1v1 back then, because that was, that's the way to get okay at the game, and then you can start playing actual modes, playing some brawls and things like that. And I never noticed any big issues with it, just because I'm having fun, I'm playing the game, I'm getting better, cool. But that was, as I said, back when everyone was banned, and now that you start off playing the game, you, for example, I don't know, you get maybe during the free starter edition period, or you just you're just like rep 10, rep 15, stuff like that, with maybe a few dozen hours, but not that much either way. Otherwise, well, then there's how do you learn the game if the game doesn't like help you with it? So I'll be going to the game right now. It should work. Does it work? Give me a second. Okay, it works. So there's the training section of the game, right, of the menu. Now there's training arena, there's training media, and there's apprentices and warrior trials. Those are the things that you can learn the game with. This is the entire, like, everything that's within the game, about the game. This is where it is. So the training arena has many issues that I will be going into in a second, but the training media, the game mode videos are actually okay. Like, I checked them before the show. I checked the duel, the brawl, and the dominion. All of them are mostly okay. The brawl one is kind of iffy for some reason, and for a reason that the devs were surprised that people were playing 2 1v1s, but then they showed 2 1v1s being played in the brawl. That's kind of weird. But the dominion one that I watched was okay, but and I didn't watch the elimination or the tribute one, but I'm sure they're still mostly okay, just because all that they are is very simple introduction to the mode, which is what they say that they're going to be, right? But there is nothing more advanced here. There is nothing like duel. Well, obviously with duel there isn't much to talk about, but like dominion advanced, there isn't anything like any like guide, any video here at all. And all of the footage here, all of it is old. It's old. Like catapult here in this, you'll see that, I don't know if I'll go through the whole video, but catapult here by the end of the video has like 5-second cast time. So you throw it, it shows that it's going to be hitting, and then like 5 seconds later it's there. Whereas in the game, obviously, it's a lot quicker. So and there's a lot of like UI things that are different now. It only shows one map as well, instead of having like many different, like at least the 2 different types of maps. So this is still like okay for what it's supposed to be, but there could still be more, and there could definitely be like an advanced video or like an advanced text guide. They could maybe do that if they don't want to make a video. So that's with the game mode. The game modes are not as big of an issue here. The videos, I think those are mostly okay. Now the hero fight videos, the only ones that are how do I say it? The only ones that are okay in terms of like how old the footage is are the ones who were made after the characters were reworked. So every time a character was reworked, they made a new video for the character. So here, unless I'm wrong, I hope I'm not wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is correct. So yeah, here's like the Conqueror with the charge heavy, for example, right? So all of this, like, this wasn't the case before the rework, so once the rework came through, they made sure to update the videos. So that's nice. I don't know how accurate the videos are in terms of like all of them. I didn't watch all of them. I watched a good part, but some of them are okay. Some of them are many issues, and I will be going into that in a second. But like the Conqueror video I think is okay, just because it's new footage. It shows what it's supposed to be, and it shows everything about the character, like the very basics about the character, and it shows some things that obviously aren't as good, but you're not going to be showing a new player. You'll only use this, like only use shield bash, right? So this is an okay video. So just not to make it like everything like, oh yeah, Ubisoft is so bad, like there's nothing they can do. The Orochi same, like there's a new video with new different things, like they're talking about the quick follow-up. So obviously, like, okay, cool, you can learn from this a little bit at least. But then we go to like Shugoki, or Nobushi in a second, or Raider, and they have such old footage that like Shugoki has Oni charge that knocks down. There's in the videos they show parry into guard break, like as it was shown with the Shugoki just now. the like the subtitles here aren't the biggest deal because some of them are like obviously like written slightly like poorly in terms of language, but that's not the biggest thing. I don't think it would be nice if they were written a little bit better, but that's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing is that the footage is so old that you go into the game, you watch this, right? You're a new player, you watch this, and you're like, oh, okay, so this Shugoki guy has this, and this, okay. And then you go into the game, and it either doesn't work, like with the Oni charge, because in this video, in the Shugoki Advanced video, they say that Shugoki gets a free attack after Oni charge, right? And then knocks down, which hasn't been the case for over a year, like a year and like 4 months now, something like that. I think they nerfed in like April last year, right, or like May last year. So that's been a while. And the animations look weird, like a lot different, because obviously this is like an earlier version of the characters and of the animations. So yeah, here you see the heavy, that's confirmed after an Oni charge. Here you see like stun your enemy to connect more easily with Demon's Embrace, and they show something okay, but then the opponent doesn't even wall splat. It's literally just throwing someone and then doing Demon Embrace, even if they don't wall splat, because the character there didn't wall splat, as you could see with the Warlord. I hope you can see this well enough. And so all the animations, all the old information, and some of the just wrong information, or again old information, all of this is just kind of lying to the players. Where's this? The Nobushi has so many old. Look at that feint with hidden stance there. I assume that was a hidden stance feint. If it wasn't, then it still looks really weird. Like all of this is simply just not correct information. And I don't mean this in like a okay, let me say it like this. They've clearly shown that they can make better videos, like they've shown with the Conqueror, with the Kensei. They, after the reworks, they made the videos again, and there's with new footage and with new subtitles and with new information. But here for Nobushi, they're showing if you get a guard break, you should throw someone into a bleed. Like it's nice to show that is a thing that you could do, but that's not the thing you want to do in almost every situation except some specific ones. So, and all the like zone in a bit, I think they're going to show a zone. It's such an old animation. Same with Lawbringer, I think, right? The Lawbringer has like an old make-way animation. The kick is the 800 ms one, of course. Hidden stance like looks so janky as well. But again, like the video itself, I don't think is that bad, because it's pretty long. They do go over all the important things, like they go over the hidden stance, not quite as much as I would like, but they do go over it. They go over hidden stance feints. They go over dash cancels. I think they take a little bit too much time with hidden stance cancels of recovery, because that's not really a thing that you do. But either way, like they show the dash cancels, okay. The content itself is okay, but the video is so bad. It's such old footage, and all the animations are wrong. A lot of the animations are wrong. And this is not as bad as the Shugoki one, which genuinely just lies to you. But this one is just kind of bad in terms of footage. And then there's the Raider, that I think they tell you like if you get a throw on someone, you can mix them up with stunning top, because nothing is guaranteed. Or people, like as you saw there on the footage, like they stand up so quick in this footage. Like, what is this? Like in this video, they stand up so quick you can only like get a light or something. Like throw enemies while charging, mix it up with a stunning top. Like this is very, very. I assume this was like a thing in maybe some of the betas, or maybe like even before that. But the game's been out for a year and a half. It'd be nice to have actual information that people could use. So there's some other characters like I'm sorry, my game decided to alt up. So some of these videos are okay, as I said. Some of these videos are really bad, and some of these videos, like the Shugoki one or the Raider one, are just terrible. But as I said, they've shown that they are capable of making actual videos, like with the Conqueror, my game decided to alt up again. I don't get it. Okay. They're capable of doing this. It's just that they're not really doing it. Look at Sand. Is the Sand one good? Okay, we'll see. Oh yeah, they have an old animation. Like, look at this one. Look at parry counter. It's just a kick in the balls. Look at it. You parry and you just kick them in the balls. This Sand basic. Okay, let's watch the Sand basic video. It just lies to you. Oh yeah, you get a kick. Oh yeah, it says that you get a kick. Like off a kick, you get a charge heavy. I want that animation. Yeah, I want that animation as well. It's such a good animation. What is that zone? Like this is I haven't seen this one before. I've only seen a few others. But yeah, like okay. So before I go on and on and on. So what do you guys think should be done with the media itself, not with the trading arena or anything like that, because we will be getting into that in a bit, but with these videos, maybe some new videos, some new guides, something like that. What should be in the training media? What do you think? If you have any ideas. Scar?
I mean, I think what they have here just actually good is fine. I think in game you really just need to give them the basics, and then they can look to external things to go super, super, super in depth. Because if you give them too much in the game, it can be really overwhelming then. But they don't even have the basics here.
Yeah, like if I want to learn what revenge is, all I can do is go to Apprentice or Warrior Trials. I assume I can't even access them because I haven't done the Apprentice Trials. So I assume it's the Warrior Trials, but all they do is they show you, okay, you got revenge. Press Y or whatever it is on keyboard. Use revenge, and that's it. I think that's all they show about revenge. Or in one of the other trials, they have about the parry, where you parry into a garbage, and that's what they tell you to do. Like, there's...
like they could at least tell you, like, you gain more revenge when being attacked by multiple opponents. You know, if they don't have to go in depth about how all of it works, but they could at least mention that it's there, but they don't tell you anything.
Yeah, they didn't tell me anything. I would like it if there were some, instead of videos, maybe some text guides, or on the site itself, if there were some more advanced text guides, or if they don't want to make videos, because videos obviously take much more time. With some basics of each character, like basic, for example, like maybe feat loadouts, or at least like descriptions of what each feat does correctly, because the descriptions in the game are not very good. That's also another thing. Yeah, Fusion?
I think that, like, now this isn't necessarily related to guides or media, but I think like another way that they could potentially incentivize players to actually improve at the game is, for example, we have the order system, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's incredibly basic. It's okay, you get 20 kills with an assassin. Like that's teaching nobody anything. How about you make like a separate order system that's like, oh, okay, perform the OS punish of this character. Or I know you'd have to keep that updated with like the current OS punishes as new ones are like always found, but like that's just an example. It's like, okay, do the proper punish against this attack, or external block however many attacks. Learn how to target stuff, things like that can be executed in an actual match. I think using the order system to actually incentivize new players to learn mechanics that are literally not mentioned anywhere would be an interesting start.
Yeah, the external block one I actually kind of like. The other ones, I think they're kind of too specific, and I think for those things like out of stamina punish and things like that, like other games, like specifically Dragon Ball FighterZ, I can talk about because I've played the game a little bit. What they have is for each character they have like 10 to 15 combos, and if you want to learn that character, then you play that one combo until you can do it, and you play the other, then you play the next, then you play the next, then you play the next, and they get progressively harder. So for each character they could do something like that, where for example you parry a light, what do? You parry a heavy. For example, for Nobushi, you parry a heavy. Under what circumstance do you do what? You parry someone who's out of stamina, what do you do, right? So it shows you what you should be doing, and then as you're able to do it, then you go into the next thing, then you go into the next thing. And of course there wouldn't be as much with For Honor as there is with something like Dragon Ball FighterZ, where you have like 15 combos. There would be like 3-4 things, or maybe they could add some other things, like for example for Nobushi, again my character, for example for Nobushi there could be like hidden stance, X amount of attacks in this, in this 1v1 against this bot, like, or punish in a correct manner X amount of attacks, something like that, where you would of course like get some like steel or experience or whatever you would get for that. I think that'd be really cool, and I think that's something like the other fighting games do. But what?
Yeah, I agree with that too. Another thing about feats you were mentioning, yeah, there's a lot of like hidden features about some feats that they do not mention in the description.
Yeah.
But people have to learn externally from other resources. where other players have tested really thoroughly. So I think they need to be a little bit more descriptive, or at least explain what the feat does in some kind of tutorial if they don't want to overwhelm the UI feature of the game.
Do you know what they say about Sharpened Blade?
What?
Attacks inflict low damage over time.
Really low.
It's really low, dude. Meets above.
Example, what I can think of very undescriptive feat screwing over a lot of players is revenge attacks. For a very long time, it applied a passive 10% damage reduction on everything you did at all times once you unlocked the feat. I don't know why they added that. Luckily, it's gone now. So for a while, it was an extremely terrible feat because the revenge gain it had was very, very low. It never really mattered, and then you just did less damage. And that's another thing. It doesn't tell you like the specifics of its revenge gain. A new player looks at it and is like, "Oh, I gain revenge while attacking. That's awesome. Let me use that." It doesn't tell them, "Oh, you do less damage, by the way. Oh, you don't really gain revenge, by the way."
Yeah.
Now that the damage reduction is removed, it is an okay feat on Zerk specifically because his multi-hit zone actually generates an okay amount of revenge with it.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't tell you any of this stuff.
Yeah. An additional thing I think is they could improve is movesets. Movesets should be, I think, giving more information in general. But I don't have any maybe with Aramusha, for example, they could say that the light after a heavy is guaranteed, something like that. After a side heavy, it's guaranteed or something like that, so that people don't get mad when they just get hit and they think that no, the Aramusha can stun like assassins, something like that.
Well, I think the movesets just need more cleaning up in general.
Yeah.
They're really difficult to get information out of. Whenever if I just pop into a random stream as a newer player, what I always notice is when we're learning something, they keep popping into the moveset. That's what they do. Every new player, they check out the moveset every couple minutes. They revisit it, look for something new to find that they want to try out. And so for something that new players are using the most out of everything, they're really difficult to get information out of. Actually pull up the Aramusha one. There's some stuff in there that could illustrate it. Just his basic chain, the Tempest. You look at that description of it, it looks so complicated. It doesn't have to look that complicated. They could simplify that so much and then add a one-sentence description, and it would be much easier for people to understand.
Yeah.
And the two columns, there doesn't seem to be any rules for what they put where. Deadly Feint is over on the left column for I don't know why. It's actually really important, because the one thing that Aramusha has in a 1v1 is the top Deadly Feint versus Assassins. That one is actually, quite difficult to block. But it's just a normal attack, but it's off with, oh, by the way, you can feint this. By the way, your twin Valkyries with chain stars. Oh, by the way, you have this really good feint. Let me just stuff this in the left column.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot with the moveset that needs cleaning up as well. Yeah, as you said. Okay, and now about the arena. The arena is so very basic. That it has in other fighting games, whenever you see anyone stream, they always start off they queue for a game, and then they're just doing some things in the practice mode, and in the training arena they they do different combos, they make sure that they know the combos, they're polishing up the skills like that. And obviously in For Honor, combos and things like that don't matter as much or nearly as much as in other fighting games. But there could be things okay, you're queuing for a 2v2 or you're queuing the minions, so now you can go into a training arena with, for example, one of your friends, and you can practice ganks, or you can practice 1v2, you can practice anti-ganks while you're queuing for a game. that would make queuing for ranked an actual thing you could do, because you would have 3 hours of some gank practice. But yeah, all jokes aside, like something more with the training arena definitely needs to happen. More descriptions when it comes to different like necessarily not more descriptions, like more ways that the like each character, for example, can fight. Something like, you know, if I'm struggling against a warden, I would like to be able to go to the training arena and, you know, start up a game against the warden and have him do like his usual stuff. But that's not really like all he has is what, like he has like what one, sorry, where is it? Is there? He has 2 presets, like Crusher, Counter Strike Bait, and Shoulder Bash Vortex. There's nothing like else. And it's not very, it's not even very, like, how do I say this? It's not very complex, because literally only canceling into a guard break or committing to a light for, you know, to have a confirmed light attack. So every time I can just, you know, every time he goes into Shoulder Bash, I can just light attack. And there is nothing the bot warden can do. Oh, okay, there I messed up. But there's every time I can just light attack, and there's nothing he can do. And so there's just nothing. Yeah, there's no option to have him hard cancel for a parry bait, as someone said. There's no option for, you know, there's no option for a charge, right? So this is like the easiest example for me, because that's something that people struggle with. But it's the same with like Scent and some other characters, right? So the presets are not very good either. There's no way to record moves as in other fighting games there are. So that kind of sucks. And also on top of all of this, bots have slower attacks than players. So you can go into a training arena, you can go into against PK, right? Because, you know, you saw online you're playing against the PK and you're having difficulty blocking her, you know, blocking her zone or parrying her lights or parrying her zone. So then you go into a training arena and you parry the zone every time or almost every time, and then you're like, oh, okay, I guess I improved. And then you go back and you can't parry any again, and you're like, okay, I guess the guy is laggy. Well, no, the guy just has actual attack how the actual attack is.
Yeah, that's like one of my main problems with the training mode, how the attacks are a lot slower than you will experience in real games. Like, I really wish there was a way to like actually mimic what the speeds are with real players, but there isn't, and that takes away a lot of things, and that's where misconception comes from, lag. Because new players go in, like Aller just said, and they practice parrying PK zone or any other fast attack, and it's really easy, and then they go into a real game and they can't do it, and then they start flaming them for being really laggy.
Yeah. Like someone said in the chat, like devs are probably very busy with other shit like Marching Fire, etc. Well, yeah, of course they're busy, because it's like the biggest thing that, you know, that they're working on right now. But you can't have the game be in a sorry state just because you're working on something for the future. Like this is really big also for Marching Fire, because once Marching Fire comes out, there will be a lot more players, and if those players don't have a nice experience at the beginning, well then what's the point of having like this huge DLC, right? When this entire like a year of work or however long it took them, I actually just don't know. But then you have such, you know, simple issues as, you know, the training arena, you know, having the attacks be wrong speed, the training media having, you know, some of the videos be actually just old and lying to you, having no additional resources, because you guys remember from last week, if you go to the site, you can play trivia with the descriptions of the characters, and, you know, if you hadn't seen this, then this is what this is, right? There's like, this is all that they have to say about the character. There's like these 6 lines, and they're also incorrect. High heavy attacks are unblockable, where no, they're not. And who calls top attacks high, right? Like, this is just the site that we know. We went to the site yesterday, so last time we did this podcast, right? So this is not, I'm not going to be going for everything again, but, you know, the heroes, all of them, like, this would be a really good place to have these slightly more advanced information. All of them, like, for example, feed descriptions for each character. Like, here there's heroes, there's faction, there's maps, and there's game modes. Well, in the game modes, you could have for Dominion, for example, as like a very simple strategy. For Tribute, same. For, you know, for obviously Duel and Brawl, there's not much. For Brawl, maybe. But for maps, you could have descriptions of how the maps, you know, how the points are laid out, instead of just, you know, two sentences of lore, right? Like if I want to learn something about the map, I don't really want to know that very few industries remain in Ashfield. This is not necessarily the information I'm looking for when I try to, you know, get some information on the map. And of course, this is not like the biggest deal, just because I don't think many people go to the site. But if the site was good, then I think many people would go to it. And then once in the training media here, sorry, it takes a bit for this to go from the browser to the game itself. Now that, you know, maybe the site is good, so then you can have like an additional thing here, an additional thing you can press, and then you go to the site, and from within the game you can go to the site and you can learn additional things. Where here in all the maps you could have additional information about the maps, and the discover all classes things. Like, this is great, but why is this just like, why is this all like this? These are very weird things to me. Like, hybrids are good pigs in all modes. Their surprising moves and tactics make them difficult to predict, so in good hands they can be efficient duelists, deadly in duel and brawl. With their zoning and support capabilities, they can also be very efficient in team-based modes. And then you have Valk here, like one of the hybrids. Like, it's a very weird thing to have. Like, that doesn't say anything. Like, they can be difficult to predict. Like, why? What's going on? Like, what are these characters? What do these characters have that the others do not? It's very weird to me that it's not better described. Because if it was better described, this could be a great resource for new players, or for even not even necessarily for new players. Because as long as the game has, I'm sorry, I should not be switching between the game and the browser, but as long as the game has information for beginners, like the game mode videos are okay, as long as they use better footage, newer footage. Hero fight videos, make them okay, cool. The arena, I'll add some things to it, cool. So now the beginners have something that they can do. But then what if the beginner wants to get slightly better? Well, then now they can go to the site, and on the site there would be, for example, information about revenge if it's not in the game. There would be information about all the feats. Like, you could see, you could press a feat, like a site, and you would go and then you see, okay, so every feat does this, this, and this, and this character has this, this, and this feat. Right? Instead of going through each character in the game and also have the descriptions be very vague or sometimes just wrong, like with Sharpened Blade saying it deals low damage over time. And of course, we already went through the heroes last time, so if you're interested in what that looks like, then you can look at the last podcast. But this is also pretty useless information for most of the heroes, where it looks to me like this is kind of the exact same thing as the in-game videos, at least in the level of complexity of the information shown here. This is the same thing as the videos, pretty much. Maybe even the videos show you more, but I think this site could be used as like an intermediate player who wants to get better. Just have like additional things they can do, like special capabilities, have something actually important, have maybe frame data here, or frame data if not in the game. Like, there's a lot of things that could be done here that for some reason are just not being done, and I don't necessarily know why. Maybe it is like Smiggles, you said, like that, they just have too much to work on. But I think this is like, both this and the in-game resources are very, very important for Marching Fire as well. This isn't like, the two aren't like different. The two are very, very closely related. Yeah, and I mean, they have information about factions, cool. They have information about maps, but they only have lore information about the maps. The game modes, they have nothing like, what you should. Well, actually, the game mode articles aren't terrible. They have, they're okay. They're like the very, very, very basics for each mode, but that's nice, okay. But that's the same as the in-game video, right? So you could have something, like just have a team of people, and of course this is not easy at all, I'm sure. But just have a team of people work on this for a bit. I'm sure many people will be willing to help, and just work on this. But okay, so that was it, I think, for the new player experience. Unless any of you have anything to add, like it could be changed, or could be improved on top of what I've said, or something else completely to say. Okay.
I think you summed it up pretty well.
Yeah, it took a while, but yeah, this time I tried being way less ranty. But as we said at the beginning, all of our new player experiences was good, except maybe Bodrat, but he played on Xbox. What was he expecting? But
that is true.
That is true. But my experience and Score's experience in Fusions as well was really good at the beginning, because it was the launch of the game, so we didn't necessarily need all of those new player things. They would have helped, but they weren't actually necessary, I don't think. But now with the matchmaking being really, really bad, with all of those things that we already mentioned. Well, now is the time for, you know, maybe for Marching Fire, maybe, to have all of this revised and have all of this like be ready for new, and also players who are returning to actually be able to learn the game and see what's going on with the game. Okay, yeah, some attacks can hit multiple targets in a row, yeah. And, yeah, so hopefully this gets fixed. I don't know. This is just what I wanted to talk about. Okay, so the last thing for today is the Q&A. So as I said, like, you can add me in the chat, and I will answer some of your questions, or we will, again, sorry, answer some of your questions. I saw some questions before, but I'm not exactly sure if I can even see them here. Yeah, oh, is it, there was a question. Is it harder to counter fast attacks, delayed attacks on a reaction on console? Well, yes. You don't really. Yeah, Fusion?
No, yeah, I mean, like, honestly, it seems like a lot of people don't even take the effort to actually delay on console. Like,
Yeah.
that's one thing where, like, it's commonplace on PC. At least I think, of course, among competitive players it is, but, like,
Yeah.
even among, like, just matchmaking, it's commonplace where, like, on console, I feel like if I were to actually sit there and frame count majority of the attacks thrown in matchmaking, I would say the overwhelming majority of them aren't even delayed.
Yeah. There's no reason to. Like, if people aren't gonna block the first one, why would I, you know, do anything about the speed of my attack? There was a question. Okay, I have an issue with the console is at such a lower level when all the people here said that they do worse in playing defensive and reactively, depending on offense that can be considered safe. Players that don't use this safe strat and can still be successful can be called unskilled. It's slightly difficult for me to understand what this means, but let's just go from the top. I have an issue with the console is at such a lower level when all the people here said they do worse in playing defensive and reactively. Well, you don't have to. Like, why would you play reactively on console when you can just spam attacks, right? And it's also impossible sometimes to play reactively and defensively, but this isn't like... The console is at a much lower level because the things that we do on console to win tournaments are so much lower level and so much more simple than we do on PC. If we want to win a tournament on console, all we have to do is block. Some external attacks, and that's it. We win the tournament, at least on Xbox. I'm sure PS4 is, as you guys have said, it's a lot higher level. But Xbox, block some attacks, we win the tournament, we get some money. PC is so much more complex in that case that, you know, that it is much lower level, and it's not necessarily like talking about like, oh, all the console players are bad. Like, I don't honestly think, and this is going to be very very controversial, I guess, but I have not seen a good console player, like a good Xbox player, sorry, in my experience in playing on Xbox, except, you know, obviously on the players on my team, but even I'm like a lot worse obviously on console than I'm on PC. But I've not seen a single like good player on Xbox, just because there's no reason to get good if you're just spamming attacks works and you win tournaments with spamming attacks. So yeah, okay. If there are any other questions, then we can answer those. Unless Fusion, you have something to say here.
I do think that, like, yeah, it plays at a lower level, certainly. Like, that's just objective. But I do think that, like, there also is like a degree of like everything, like all the circumstances do kind of hide both the potential and also some of the players that do play at a relatively higher level in comparison to the rest of the console players.
Of course, it's of course I'm not saying that like if all of those players who are playing like competitively on Xbox were to switch to PC and commit like you guys have, for example, or, you know, Bodrod in the past or Brave in the past, then of course they could get good. What I'm saying is like in my experience, I'm playing on Xbox, I have not seen a single good player.
Yeah.
Like for the standards.
The way that I look at it is I just don't know who's good or not. Like when I play on PS4, I mean, you can tell when the people just aren't good, but when someone's giving you a bit of trouble, I try to think, oh, would this guy be good on PC? And I just don't know. They're so different. They might have skills to transfer to PC, they might not. It's different. You can't tell.
Yeah. Like in my case, since I play on Xbox, like the level is a lot lower, like we've already said multiple times. So if maybe Fusion you disagree with this, but I do think it's easier on Xbox to tell whether a player is good or not, and usually the answer is no. even at the like quote unquote highest like competitive level that we've played 2v2 or 4v4. Like in 2v2, the only team that I think like did any damage to us has ever been you guys, right? And the last tournament, or even in the first ever tournament that we played in like half a year ago, or even more, like 8-9 months ago that we played, and like you were the only ones, like, and the like Brazilians in 2v2 as well, like the Nobushi Orochi that I talked about, like where they were just Brazilian. None of us could react to any attacks that the other was doing, so we were just kind of like, just spamming attacks, and that's about it. But you know, like other than that, then you guys were the only ones who ever like did any damage to us, and we're not good either. Like I don't think we were playing very well either. And then on 4v4, I don't think we've ever lost a game in any of the tournaments we played. And this is also because, you know, 4v4 is just not played on Xbox, but 1v1 is. Sorry, 2v2 is, and it's also really, really bad. So I don't know what you think, Fusion, here. But
I view console, at least competitive console, to be basically the equivalent of college sports. It's like, all right, so I personally can like tell who I think would be good on PC and who wouldn't.
Okay.
And that comes down to a few factors. Is like, all right, there are some people on console who can defend themselves pretty well. I for example, honestly, I just parried every time I saw red because no one was smart enough to actually attack. So I thought I was going to be like some god when I transferred to PC. I was like, okay, I'm parrying everything thrown at me. Let's go. But like I can generally, for the most part, on Xbox, and believe me when I say I do think there's only a very, like, I'm talking 15 people, maybe 15 people who could actually transfer and be good at the game. And like even just among tournament winners, there's some people who I don't think could transfer and have an easy flowing time. Maybe it's just the way they play or something like that, but like there is certainly a level of players who are just brain dead who can win because they play on that platform. You know, that's a very real thing. But I generally have an easier time telling. But I do think it's like that scenario where like you have to flip a coin. It's like, okay, is this guy going to be good? Is this guy not? You know.
Okay. All right. So if there are any other questions, then you guys can ask them in chat. Like we're gonna be here for like a minute, maybe more or something like that. And if there's no other questions, then we can just end it here. But yeah, like with Xbox, it's I don't know, like. Maybe I'm just thinking about this wrong, but maybe my standards are just like slightly higher than. I don't want to sound like, oh yeah, I'm just so much better. But like what I want to say is like, most when I say like I've not seen a good player, I mean like a player who could like compete at PC, right? That's not necessarily saying that, you know, they wouldn't be able to like do well or just on PC in general, but like in tournaments at their current level. But I'm sure, like, of course, as I think Scar or Fusion, one of you said like if they switch to PC, then I'm sure there is capability of them, of course, being good enough to play in the tournaments. What did you guys think of this season? You mean this very season, like For Honor? Then what was it, like PK and Orochi, right? And the new map. I mean, it's less than what people would like, I think, but I mean, there's still something at least, and I hope there's more in the future seasons. I don't know if there's anything else to say here. I think they are the... Oh, yeah, Oscar?
Yeah, it's just not really much content, so it's a bit disappointing, but, you know, now you guys know what they were working on, you know, Marching Fires, so these couple of seasons and not much content, there is a reason for it. They were busy with Marching Fire.
Yeah.
So it'll come eventually. We're just going to have a bit of a slow period here, but... yeah, cool stuff in the future. I mean, the PK nerfs were nice, at least. You know, PK's been ridiculous from the beginning. Now, finally, she's pretty balanced.
Yeah. Why aren't you bored of For Honor, actually, since you got to wait for months? I mean, we're just playing... I don't know, like me specifically, I just like competing. So... yeah,
there's always stuff to improve on, and 4v4 keeps me busy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, next season we get more reworks, more maps, and other staff improvements. Next season I think they said, right? They said last Warriors then that next season is Warriors. Is Valk and Warden.
Yep.
So that's Warden's obviously like one of the most asked for characters, and Valak is pretty close there as well. To one of the like most, like there's also like Lawbringer and Shugoki that I guess that like are the other ones that people ask for a lot, especially Lawbringer. But those are like the characters that people have been asking for, so that's already nice that that's happening. Yeah, and I don't know if there's gonna be new maps, or I don't know if they said anything yet. Do you think competitive 4v4 is in a good state? Will we see another team winning anytime soon? Good state, you mean like the game itself competitively in a good state, or do you mean like the scene in a good state? So once we answer that, we can talk. I don't think it's necessarily fair to judge the better console players from the viewpoint of PC. Well, it's not. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily judge them like that. I just think they're not very good in general. That's the way I think about it. But Fusion, I see you have something to say here.
It's not necessarily fairness. I think it's more so like, I think console really, really, really has a low skill cap due to circumstances. And I think it genuinely is a platform that can make someone worse than what they can be. So like, it's just like, I feel like console can like genuinely just like turn you into a player who like I feel like if you played a certain way on console for a very long time, there's almost like no going back if you played a certain way and then try to transfer that playstyle on PC. I know I personally had to really, really, really make a lot of changes just off of like doing a few scrims. I was like, okay, there's a lot of things I need to change and improve on because I'm still stuck in the console mindset.
Yeah. The number one thing I want to see right now is the guard switch bug fixed. Yeah, that'd be nice. So yeah, Werewolf, if you can say what exactly you meant with your question, we could answer it.
He did. He said scene.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, scene. Then I don't think it's in a lot better state than it was any other time in the past, because I don't know if any of you remember, but very, very early on, like March, there was pretty much no scene for 4v4, and there was just like one team that happened to have good players, and they would just win every like tournament that happened to be there in 4v4. Then then later on, like in May, when it was like the second time, or June, when it was like the second time we started playing 4v4, there was like a team and a half, because well, no, there was like two teams. There was Stormblast and there was Ulukakt. That was like also one tournament only, and then Ulukakt, which was me, Jordan, Clutch, and Hansax, just stopped existing, and then there was just one team. And every tournament was just one team winning and nothing else going on, like not even competitive in any way. But now we've got 4 or 5 very high level teams and some other teams who who want to get to that level, and all of those teams that are already at that, the highest level right now, all of them have, it seems like it at least, have the motivation to improve and keep playing the game. And I see that a lot in people I talk to, or in some of the competitive players I talk to, where they do have that motivation to keep playing scrims, to keep improving. They ask questions that they don't know something. They try out different things. They experiment. They clearly want to get better. So that's great for the scene. I would, of course, it would still be always. It'd be nice to have even more people. I think that's always. That's always going to be the case. It would always be nice to have more people. But we have like 17, 18 teams in the last tournament, like the previous tournament, like compared to the For Honor tournament, and then in the tournament before that we had like 16, 17 as well. So it's like, except that one tournament that happened yesterday, we've had consistently a lot of teams, and some of those teams are lower level, but they're playing because they want to improve and they want to try out playing, competitive Dominion, competitive tournaments in general. So that's really cool. And as at the highest level, we also have many more teams that we used to have in the past. But yeah, if you guys have anything to say here, then you can talk about it as well. But
yeah, it's definitely better than it ever was. And for the second point fair, will we see another team winning anytime soon? Definitely possible. I mean, 2 tournaments ago, UDA was very, very close to getting sent to losers bracket quite early into the tournament, so it's possible. We got them very close. The Dyer's team always takes games off of them. Sometimes they even got very close as well to knocking them to losers. So
Yeah.
if teams keep improving, yeah, we will.
Yeah. Whatever they do to Valkyrie World, do you think they can enter the competitive scene? Well, then that matters. What matters here is what they do to them. It's not like if they do enough good things, then of course they can enter the competitive scene. Yeah. Are Dominion tournaments going to fall out of popularity after Breach comes out?
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know that.
We just have to wait to see how it is and how the game mode is balanced.
Yeah. If the game mode is balanced, then I would think that it would actually fall out of popularity, just because I think Breach has all of the good things about every other mode and has some additional things to it.
Exactly. There's a lot of fun in it, even if it's to stop the game's average to about like 10 to 15 minutes. So they're not like Dominion. Once you snowball, you don't have a chance of coming back.
Yeah, there's a lot to do. And some things that the community complains about, like the death pool, which of course is not really an issue at competitive level, but some of the things that the community complains about is not a thing in those modes, as in that mode, sorry, specifically in Breach. Yeah, but
I was gonna say, like, a thing about like breaches, like if you do bad in phase 1, like you're not out of the game. There's a good chance you can pretty much win the game because there's 3 phases. But in Dominion, if you lose like 2 or 3 team fights in the beginning, it's pretty much over once the other opposition team gets feats. If you start snowballing and other team has feats, it's really hard to come back. That's not the case with Breach, which people will like.
Yeah, well, so that you don't misunderstand, there is, of course, if you do better at the beginning, of course, you do have an advantage, but it's not like it's a game-winning advantage. It's not like you can lose phase 1 or like barely scrape by to phase 2 and you're still just fine. Of course, the other team does have an advantage if they did better, but the advantage is nowhere near as close, as big, sorry, as in Dominion or something like that, where in Breach, there's a lot more to do simply. So, like, okay, well, you lost the team fight, for example, or you barely won phase 1, where, you have, like, I don't know, like 15 tickets left, where then you can spread around the map, and you can try and poke from different, okay, what I'm trying to say is that there's many different strategies you could use in, like, phase 2, for example, that you will not, that there's just not a thing in Dominion, where in Breach, there's, in the minion lane, there's with the ram, there's the side lane with the guardian and the ballistas, there's the side lane with the boosts, with the boost and with the archers. There's so much more to do that a small advantage will not necessarily snowball into like a big win. Do you think Dominion with no feats would be a good idea? No. Do you think if we had a proper, unless you guys have anything to say, do you think if we had a proper tool to send out competitive matches via stream or video, spectator mode, the competitive community would get boosted? Yes. If there's more, like, of course, like, the more ways to expose, like the more ways to show competitive play in any game, the more interest there would be in that aspect of the game. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that would be nice. Like, for me specifically, for example, where I would like to do some content, like educational content. Well, right now it's very difficult for me to do that because I can only, like, watch VODs, and that's about it or I can play matchmaking for something like that for educational commentary. Whereas if I could just spectate a game, or if I could, like, download a replay of a game, or like a tournament finals, I could watch that, and I would be able to give commentary and would be able to help people get better at the game. Is Conquer really better than Lawbringer compared to Dominion? It's hard to say, I think.
They're about at an equal level. They serve different purposes. Yeah. Like, they're very close in their viability. They're just for different uses.
Yeah. Okay, is there anything else you guys wanted to say about any of the questions? Because I did kind of go through them, like, really quickly. So if you have anything to say about any of the questions, then this is your time. But if not, then I think we're gonna be probably done for today. This was a long podcast as well, but I think we didn't do any, like, I think all we talked about was important enough to where, and hopefully not boring enough to the point where it's okay to have a long one. Maybe at this point, like an hour and a half is a short one. This is a normal one. It's hard to say. Oh, actually, there's one more question. If there was a ban phase for competitive 4v4, would it be fun? No, I don't think. I think it would be a bad idea.
No,
we don't have enough
so
characters.
if you look at like League of Legends or Dota, they have over 100 heroes to pick from. We have 18 at the moment, and in a few months we'll go up to 22. There's not enough to have bans.
Yeah, like there is enough variety already. Like okay, like banning would just make it so that there's even less variety than there's less variety than there's right now. I think on top of there's just not being enough characters. That's all. Would bombs being dodgeable be healthier for the game? What do you mean? Like dodgeable on reaction, something like that? Is that the question? I guess because they are dodgeable. Do you mean like iframing, like kind of like traps? Is that maybe what you mean? Where you can just iframe for a trap and the trap will not deal damage? I'm guessing iframes and rolls. Yeah, that's what I'm guessing as well. I don't think that would be very good, no? Oh yeah, like
they
traps.
Would become completely worthless if you could iframe them.
Yeah, it'd be pretty bad. Yeah, if it were like traps, then yeah, you would just not run. Like the only reason you would ever then run like a Fiat Lax would be to clear minions. That's about it. Because you would never hit it on people. And if you were like, if you wanted to like guarantee the bombs with like a Garbage or something, that's way too like finicky, and it also gives way too much revenge. So like you would never run bombs to be like to attack other people. You would only run like Fiat Logs maybe to kill minions. That's about it. Okay, so I think that's gonna be it for this week. This was as I said, a pretty long one, but also I think a pretty good one. So wait, do I have anything? Okay, actually no, let's just let's keep on this screen. Okay guys, so thank you all for being here. If you have any shoutouts, then this is your time. Scar, do you have anything to shout out?
You're gonna be happy about this one. I'm gonna plug your Dominion Guide series.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, you guys should check that out. Check out all the coming episodes that Alern will be making. I think it's a really good step towards helping new players.
Hopefully, yeah. Budget?
I just want to close out with every podcast I close out with. If you ever need teams for 4v4, just message me on Discord and I'll help you find a team. Whether you're EU or NA, doesn't matter. Just let me know.
Okay. Fusion?
Shout out to my jerky sponsor. They keep me gaming.
Yeah. You cannot game with without the jerky in your mouth, right? It's difficult. Fusion? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I was memeing.
No, I know, but okay. So from me, there's actually, well, thank you guys for being here. And thank you for being here again, and thank you Fusion for stepping in for Reptile this week as well. Okay, now that I'm rid of the parasites that are my guests, thank you guys for watching. And what else do I have to say? Oh yeah, a shout out to again Ender, as per usual, for doing the tournaments. Shout out to Mistressed for again making the tournaments, and shout out to who's making the competitive? I would assume the competitive foreign tournaments were Berets and Strawberry. So shout out to them as well for making those tournaments. And actually, before I go, there is a tournament that's going to be happening. That's going to be a competitive foreign tournament. I would assume you know about this already because it's the competitive Forerunner subreddit is the Discord server is way bigger than than the reach of this podcast. But there is. When is it? Okay, it's in 6 days. So this is the link to a competitive 2v2 tournament from competitive Forerunner, and it's also going to be a 4v4 from what I'm seeing here. So this is what I just linked is a 2v2. Oh, I'm retarded. What I just linked is a 2v2, and this is a 4v4 tournament. That if you guys are interested in, you can sign up. You see all the, all the dates and everything like that, all the rules. Make sure to check that out. So if you are interested in playing competitive, this is your way to go. They do many tournaments and ! Discard. There we go. This is where you want to join the Discord for competitive PC and for console as well. There's the other Discord. So thank you guys for watching. Shout out to, as I said, all the people that have already shouted out, and that's probably gonna be it. So I'm gonna be doing the outro now, and then is there anything else I would need to do? I don't think so. So then, thank you guys for watching again, and I'm gonna host someone in a second. Oh, there we go.